Yo guys, welcome to the last lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. Can we also talk a bit about Checo? Because he obviously had a stinker in practice.
And quali.
Then that extended to quali, the stinkiness.
Yeah.
Made progress, P5 in that car. All things considered, obviously multiple red flags.
Yeah, where was he before the flags? Was he in the points?
He got past Hulkenberg, didn't he? He got past Hulkenberg before Magnussen.
So he gained from
yeah.
Gasly going out, and he was ahead of
so is this, he
gained from Gasly and he gained from Sainz.
He got past Norris and Hulkenberg.
He was in
he was-
8th. Is that 9th?
Ninth?
9th.
Yeah.
So that's 9th, and then there's a second. So that's
Then he got up to 7th because he got past Norris and Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
So he was up to 7th. He was 7th.
Yeah, he was
7th,
Yeah,
but he gained from Sainz's penalty and
that's
Gasly's
it.
retirement.
I just find it weird because it's weird how stuff changes so quick in F1 because, you know, like first race, you were like, fucking hell, he looks like he's on his money here.
Yeah.
And then now you're just like,
One bad weekend, it's like,
yeah, you're like, has he lost his confidence?
yeah.
But like, I think you said it before. Like, this is what it was like with Valtteri Bottas. Like, as a Mercedes fan, you know, Valtteri Bottas would win Australia. I think there was one time, you know how F1 runs on narrative. There was one time Valtteri Bottas turned up with a beard. Not even a beard, stubble. He turned up with stubble. And they were like, oh, Valtteri 2.0, Valtteri 2.0.
Yeah.
And then he
He's
won.
eating his porridge this morning.
Yeah, exactly. And then he flew to race win. And then he was like, so everyone would, they're like, whatever. And they're like, oh, Valtteri 2.0, he's going to take the fight to Lewis. And then Lewis started dunking, like, you know the Michael Jordan meme? So he was like, and I took that personally. He literally, fuck them kids, fuck you up, mullet, fucking beard. Like, but it was just, he literally dunked like 20 seconds on him, 20 seconds on him. And like, I feel like that's what happens with like Checo and Max, where Checo will, if it's a boxing match, 12 rounds, Checo will get some jabs in. There might be some times where Checo might rock Max, but over 12 rounds, Max will comfortably beat Checo. And it was the same with Lewis.
The evidence is pretty clear. Like you look at they've had 2 full seasons together. You look at the average qualifying deficit, and it's between 4 and 5 tenths. Yeah, which is like significant.
He also has played his role at certain points.
Yeah.
What I think, like, to just defend him, I think he has helped Max out, like last season, like a couple of times.
He has.
21.
He's a great.
Yeah.
He's really good at that role.
That's his role, and I think that's what I used to like. We used to go at, but you've been on our podcast, and we got at Bottas like a lot. I think you were actually on after Mexico 21.
Bottas just didn't defend.
Where we were like,
Ever.
you know, we were in the middle of a title fight. We had a Mercedes front row, first and second, and Bottas has Max behind him. And he's so concerned with beating Lewis off the line, he kind of moves across and tries to block Lewis out, and he just lets Max go around the outside.
I remember that one.
And that was the episode where we called him our stepson. And like, it's literally, I say we, Tandy. So like, direct the hate to her. So like, but he even in that point, that was the difference between, I think, Lewis winning and losing the title was. Like,
You look back to all of those little incidents, and that's one of those examples.
Like Bottas in Imola was in 10th, crashing with George Russell.
Yeah.
In Russia, is it in Russia where he was like, no, Verstappen was behind him on his way through to 32nd, and he couldn't keep him behind him. You know, Mexico. I think there was that time in Spain where he held him up, and they were like, Valtteri let Lewis pass, and he was like, oh, I was just having some fun, and they were just like,
but we're not having fun.
We're not having fun here, bro. Like, it's serious. And I think Checo was much more in that role of second driver. I'm going to support the team. I think it was his first season there.
Yeah.
But like now, he kind of cemented that role, and everyone was happy with that. But now it's just those two. It's very difficult for him to step outside of that and become like a championship.
And of course, like, Checo wants to win. He knows he's in the best team right now in F1. This is the best shot he's going to get. This is the shot he's going to get, right? And so he's entitled to. But obviously, we talked about in the stream, like what a team wants that's at the front is a driver who's going to get maximum points. They're not going to take points away from each other because then that allows potentially someone else to come through and take a driver championship. Because as much as the teams say the constructors means a lot to them, and sure it does because it's a bit more money in the bank, but for legacy, no one remembers that Ferrari won the 2008 constructors.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers that Lewis won it on the last lap passing Timo Glock. So it's like, I think that Perez is entitled to back himself and go for what he wants, but long term, and I think part of the reason maybe Mercedes felt like they just couldn't hold George off any longer from that seat, but I think maybe Valtteri knew that and was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm not going to be as much of a team player as I used to be. I'm going to try and I mean, bloody hell. Remember Catalunya when he just did the most half-assed defence against Lewis?
Yeah.
And I think that's when Toto realised, like, okay.
Was it Baku when he got absolutely battered through the midfield in a Mercedes on lap one?
He dropped like Baku was
He dropped like 4 places
let me tell you now,
in one lap. I was that made me fear for him going Alpha. I was like, you cannot fight in the midfield, mate, at all.
I said the same thing. Like, that first half of the season in 2021 genuinely was some of the worst driving I've for real.
Facts.
Like I said, like
respectfully,
he did have some shock.
Respectfully, so
Definitely, yeah, he did.
Respectfully,
no, you're right, he did. That's the thing. I think certain drivers are. There's a mentality that comes from certain drivers, and I think it's a rare breed. It's not just having the skills. It's having that absolute, like, I think, we've seen Valtteri come out of his skin now. He's gone to Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
And I think that's a better fit for him as a character from the character that I'm seeing. There's other drivers like Max, like Lewis, who they get to the top for a reason. And it's not just about skill. Like, I'm sure we've all played against, kids kicking about, playing football who've got the technical ability but just lose their head all the time.
Yeah. No,
like you need to have the full package, right?
Yeah.
So do you think there's a better suited team for Sergio then?
So I think Sergio's got... I feel like Sergio's got more of that dog in him than Valtteri did, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Not hard.
But I just don't... I just don't think... and it's not a gripe on Sergio. I just think Max is that kind of generational talent that we don't see very often.
Max hounded Ricardo out.
Yeah, man.
And like
Ricardo was serious.
Wait,
Ricardo beat Vettel.
Tell a real gangster.
Yeah, facts. Yeah.
So, but no, that's the thing. Like you're really right. Like, in 2018, when after the Monaco Grand Prix, like the people who had won a race in 2018 were like Daniel Ricciardo, Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton. They all had 2 race wins each. And at that point, Daniel Ricciardo's stock could not have been higher.
No.
And for him, at that point, to make a decision to say, I'm literally like beating Max Verstappen in this team right now, but I still don't feel like it's my team. I need to go somewhere else. I think it shows like the levels, like he knew what was coming. Like, and Sergio, in answer to your question, like what's the best team for Sergio? Where he was before they turfed him out for Vettel was the best place.
Yeah,
racing
like, point.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, at the time I said like that is, like, respectfully, that I thought that was a mad decision. Like, because I could tell Vettel was on the way out. Just even like
such a short-term decision.
Yeah, from like a motivational point of view, like Vettel's not gonna want to build a team up. He doesn't want to build a team up. He was getting sick of Ferrari. If you want to take him to Aston Martin, you guys are nowhere near winning a title yet. Like Sergio will get the max out of a bad car or a midfield car. Anytime there's an opportunity to get like podiums, I think people contrast his and Hülkenberg's career where he can get a podium like. If it's there, he'll get it. Whereas Hülkenberg, for some reason or another, just has the worst luck in the world.
Yeah.
I think in that instance, I don't think Vettel did any better a job than Checo would have done, because Checo's stock in 2020, we won a race. He was phenomenal. He was unreal that year. Him and Ricardo was sick.
Nuts. Yeah.
In the racing point of the Renault.
I'd say he was better than Ricardo.
Yeah, maybe.
He was literally driver of the season. If we're going to be totally real.
And then he lost his seat. And I think, the marquee of a 4-time world champion, like, I get that side of it. And, to justify getting rid of Sergio was incredibly harsh. And look, I'll be the first to say, like, he deserved that Red Bull seat over Albon. Like for real. Albon had a stinker, and Perez he was number one driver. Alex didn't do enough to merit keeping that seat. And if I was Red Bull in charge, I would have made the same decision. Like, for real, because of course you would. Like, you've got someone who's had 2 years, and you've got Perez with this catalogue of history and experience. Has just come off a worldy season. That's the exact driver you want, and he did the exact job that they needed in 2021. And look, I hope
he still won a race this year.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, if it wasn't for
but Checo's never
this weekend.
Checo's never won a race in a Red Bull when there hasn't been some kind of issue for Max.
Facts, yeah.
So that's just the truth.
Yeah.
That is just the truth.
But also he can't help it, but he can't help that something happened to Max that made him win.
There's also races that he's lost through, like, no fault of his own, that he actually, like...
Well, Saudi Arabia was the closest one, wasn't it?
Saudi Arabia last year, he would have won on merit, but he got stiff.
That's the one time I felt like on pace he has had the advantage. Yeah. That's the one time in 3 seasons to get, like, 2 and a bit seasons.
I agree. I think, like, obviously Max is just...
2 and a bit seasons?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
2021, 22, and then a little bit of 2023.
Fucking hell.
Time flies when you're on the dizzies and cokes.
Feels like 2 seasons has gone by today, mate, honestly. We started the show in 2021.
Yeah.
Again, look, as things stand, it's all right for Red Bull. Like, there's no... Checo's doing good enough job. Like, no sweat there. I think if it gets more competitive up the front, that's when the dynamics change potentially, right?
Get Albon back in.
But look, I mean, do you see a situation? I think he extended his contract last season, right?
Yeah, his contract's till the end of next year.
Next year, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't see a situation potentially this season. Who knows? But I guess, do you see a situation where they do swap him out? I feel like what F1 does is they get bored of certain people in certain seats.
I agree.
And they want to just like, is his seat saved?
I think they pick like a target, don't they?
Yeah, Bottas was a target for a bit. Albon was a target. Gasly was a target. I think anyone in that Red Bull second seat is basically like a target.
Everyone gets bored.
Speculation.
So everyone goes, you know what? Would be mad if we had Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah, I'm going to be totally real with you. Daniel Ricciardo does not do a better job than Sergio Perez for me in that car. Probably like a similar job, but like not to the degree where I'm going to go, oh yeah, flipping heck. Nah, this is crazy.
It's a risk, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is a risk.
Sergio Perez is doing a more than good enough job.
Look,
to keep the seat. You don't need to change it if you're Red Bull.
Let me tell you now. If you, man, paid £20 million a year to someone, I can't believe we're doing this. But if you paid £20 million a year to someone and they drove your car and they just could not get to grips with your car, no matter what you did for them, they couldn't get to grips with your car. They were literally like one of the biggest differentials between teammates on the grid, despite everything you've done for them over 2 years. Why would you, as another team, with those wage demands, think, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on him?
There's a question,
Because what if it doesn't work in my fucking car? Like, what's to say he doesn't like the way that this car drives? Like, he's
if Daniel wants to get back on the grid, he needs to be able to go to other teams. And he's been quoted like this weekend.
He doesn't want to do it.
He's not going to go to like a lower midfield team. Like, he wants to go to a top team, right? He needs to be able to guarantee that they're going to get a Red Bull / Renault version of Ricciardo, which I believe still exists in the right hardware, given the right car.
Yeah, for sure.
That's right.
But it's a risk for no
reason. He's not disappeared. When you compare to like other drivers, like so many other drivers who consistently, Nico Hulkenberg's an example. He's never had like a stinker. Like he's always been like good at good levels, good solid levels.
He's off road watch a lot.
And yes, he's been like lower midfield teams, whatever, right? But like Alonso's a very good example.
Yeah.
Every car he's driven, whether it's a top car or a bottom car, he's got the maximum amount.
Look at Sainz.
There's confidence that you have.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, Sainz has not had a bad season. Bruv, even last season, he brought it back.
Yeah, he brought it back.
Yeah, end of last season.
He was getting peppered first half of the season, but second half he actually brought it back.
But when Albon was out, he was doing Excel spreadsheets, walking around he literally was like showing his differential relative to Perez and Gasly, and being like blah blah blah, and then managed to get in with Williams. And he was able to like, you know, go past all of the noise, which there's a lot of noise. Of course there was, because Verstappen had absolutely wiped the floor with him. But actually be like, right, if you're signing a driver, points tell part of the story, but they don't tell the whole story. And you want to understand the nuance. You don't want to miss out on this worldy driver just because, you know, the papers have printed them to be terrible because they've been destroyed by the teammate. But then you put them in a different circumstance and they flourish. And I think that's what Albon's been able to do at Williams.